Alright guys, what's going on? This video is going to be week 5 hits and misses from the booming and busting. Um, Quarterbacks didn't do fantastic on, only about 60% hit. I said you were going to want to start Jimmy Garoppolo, but they beat up on the Cleveland Browns so badly that they just started handing the ball off. He didn't have to pass a lot. I said start Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, Jared Goff. They all had league average games a little bit above Kirk Cousins. He had a pretty great game for his standards so far this year. My two misses on the quarterbacks for the busting, I said you're going to want to sit Dak. In NFL standards, he had a horrible game. 3 turnovers, a lot of throws. But since he had to throw the ball so much because they were down, he ended up getting a lot of yards. I said you're going to want to sit Russell Wilson. I really thought that there was going to be some sort of regression, but so far this year, Russell Wilson just keeps getting better every single game. Look for this year to be his serious MVP season. He's been an underrated player every year that he's been in the league, but this year might be his first year to break through. I said you're going to sit Baker Mayfield, Philip. What's his last name? Philip Rivers. There we go. And Lamar Jackson, and all those guys had pretty pitiful games. Running backs. I did really well on running backs. I said, don't worry, still start Austin Eckler. I said start Aaron Jones, Philip Lindsay, Chris Carson. The only one for my starts that was, kind of like an iffy was Mark Ingram. He only got about 13 points. But other than that, all those other guys, they were doing fantastic. And then my sits, I did pretty well too. I said sit Alvin Kamara. He had about 15 points, which is pretty low for his standards, but in a flex option, that was good. I said sit Leonard Fournette. I keep underestimating Leonard Fournette and the Jacksonville Jaguars rushing attack. So look for him to continue to get better. So far, he's gotten better in every single game so far this season. And then I said sit Nick Chubb and sit James Conner. Both those guys had pedestrian games. I hit 78% on the running backs. Wide receivers, 50-50. I said start Mike Williams. He had a little bit over 10 points, which is really good for his production so far this year. I said start Mike Evans. That may be the worst mistake that I've ever made and that I make all year. They absolutely did put Marshawn Lattimore on Mike Evans, and it paid off well. They completely shut him down. 2 targets, 0 catches. I said start Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen did extremely well against the Giants. Didn't want to start Stephon Diggs. There's not really a lot going on with him right now that makes me think that they're going to trust him. But then otherwise, Larry Fitzgerald and Jarvis Landry also had above average games so far for their production this season. I said sit Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin still has not yet met a number 2 running back number 2 cornerback that has the potential to slow him down. I said sit every single Cincinnati wide receiver. Tyler Boyd ended up balling out, had over 100 yards, so I missed on that. I said sit DJ Moore and Tyler Lockett. Both those guys had average games, below average for their standpoint, so that was all right. And then Amari Cooper. I said sit Amari Cooper because the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to run the football. And for some reason, Ezekiel Elliott only ended up having like 15 carries, had like 60-some yards, and they decided to throw the football to Amari Cooper every single play. Dak has been regressing back to his normal self. The first 3 weeks, they played the Giants, they played the Redskins, and they played the Dolphins. The last 2 weeks, they played real defenses. Amari Cooper's targets have gone up, and Ezekiel Elliott's production has gone down. What those defenses have been doing is they've been teeing off against the running back, Ezekiel Elliott, and they've been forcing Amari Cooper to throw the ball. Or they've been forcing Dak Prescott to throw the ball. And when Dak throws the ball, the only person he knows he's comfortable with is Amari Cooper. Look for Amari Cooper to be getting a lot of targets. This is what happens with young quarterbacks who aren't comfortable. They always favor the number 1 wide receiver. And as Dak becomes more and more uncomfortable, because defenses are teeing off on Ezekiel Elliott, and because he realizes that he just lost probably about $100 million, Amari Cooper's going to be getting a lot more receptions. Tight ends, I didn't do well on tight ends at all. Got 35%. I said start George Kittle. He had the best week he's had and the best week of any tight end so far. And then otherwise, I said, start Greg Olson. He put up a bagel just like Mike Evans. I said start Jason Witten, Jack Doyle, and OJ Howard. And all of those tight ends, got between 2 and 6 points. Jason Witten, the deal with Dak Prescott, only throwing to Amari Cooper. Jameis Winston was really frustrated by the New Orleans Saints defense. I have been seriously underestimating them. And look for the New Orleans Saints to really start making strides defensively once Drew Brees comes back, because then they'll be able to play with really, really nice leads, and they'll be able to bite on deep passes more. I said sit Austin Hooper. He had a pretty good game in that extreme shootout. I said sit Vance McDonald, Jimmy Graham. Those guys both had below average games, so I was doing all right there. And then defenses. I hit every single defense that I said. I said start Carolina, Tennessee, Buffalo, and San Francisco. All those teams made it in the top 8, I want to say, for league defenses. Tennessee and Buffalo against each other, that was going to be a defensive matchup. San Francisco, I knew San Francisco's defensive line was going to be too much for Cleveland. And then Carolina against Jacksonville, even though Gardner Minshew did put up a few points on them, Jacksonville was able to capitalize on a few turnovers and different things like that. Carolina was able to capitalize on a few turnovers from Jacksonville. And then I said sit New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta, and Houston. Another back-to-back duo, Atlanta and Houston, sit those guys. I knew there was going to be a lot of points scored. I didn't think it was going to be that many. But nonetheless, they still, greatly underperformed defensively. Baltimore, especially with their safety, Tony Jefferson out, look for that defense that had really been underperforming this year anyway to regress to the mean. Baltimore is no longer that great defensive team that we've always known them to be. And New Orleans, even though they played a great defensive game, they still ended up giving up a lot of points because, for a lot of that game, Tampa Bay was in catch-up mode.